I want to go ahead and welcome Charity Furness, who's the Executive Director of Experience Old Town Warrenton. And she's another one of these leaders in the community that exemplifies leadership through service, having been previously Executive Director for FISH. And she serves on numerous boards right now. So I don't know quite how she has the time for all of it. And she even found the time to talk today with us. So welcome, and thanks for taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I'd like to start off a conversation with a story. And I know that most people who have served can remember back to that time when they really felt called to do something of service. So can you share a story with us?
Sure. There's a couple of things in my life that I think really impacted my drive to give back. And it started in high school. Well, even probably beyond that, growing up, my dad was always volunteering to be a coach or an umpire or a referee. So I saw him giving back to the community. And then when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to give back myself, whether it was the Junior Optimist Club or we had Key Club. But one of the things that I remember specifically was I was chosen as a student to participate with Shop with a Cop. So I was able to go, we went to Walmart and we were able to shop with these children, and the feeling of being able to give back and the joy on their faces for not only, it allowed me to give them an opportunity to give. And that was really incredible because you had these children that were picking out things for their parents, whether it was a new coat or gloves, or I remember one of the children I was working with wanted a new work boots for his dad. But the joy on their faces and how proud they were to be able to then give to their family really just, it sunk in with me. That is very powerful. To give is very powerful and very rewarding. So I went to college, and in that time of my life, it was really focused more on my own personal development. And then got out of college, got married, had children. And my husband and I were driving through Detroit when Detroit was really in trouble. And we remember driving through this major U.S. city. And, the United States is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And here you have this metropolitan city that has these skyscrapers, and they were literally boarded up. So the Tigers were playing a home game, and we drove by the stadium, and there was no traffic, none whatsoever. And around the stadium, there were tumbleweeds of trash blowing through the city. And we felt like we'd been transformed to another planet. It just was so eerie to see this. And we were just kind of driving around looking at the architecture. And then we went down the street and we turned again, and there was a van, just a regular cargo style van. And there were people with just a 4x4 car table, and they were passing out food. And the food that they were passing out, there was a line of people that went down the entire city block and around the corner. And it really sunk in what that meant, what those empty streets and no economy meant to these people. The line was so long, we knew there wasn't enough food in that van to serve them. And it just hit me hard that there are people suffering in one of our cities, in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And I know that people suffer around the world, but why as Americans can we not take care of our neighbors first so that we can strengthen our core, so that we can strengthen the rest of our body? So we sunk in, and I came home and I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't have an answer. I didn't have a solution. I had a desire to do something about it, but I didn't have a plan. And at the time, I was on a listserv for a local community group, and there was a call out for volunteers to feed kids during the summer and on the weekends when they were outside of school. So I said, well, I've got the time. Let me go to this meeting and see what I can do. That's my one way of being able to give back. So, and I went to this meeting. I was not familiar with any of the food pantries or food banks or anything of that sort. So I went, my meeting was at Fauquier Fish, which is the food pantry. And never in my wildest dreams would I have known that there was more than one food pantry in a town the size of Warrenton. So I showed up at the Fauquier Community Food Bank, and they had no idea what I was talking about. They were not aware of this meeting. So I drove down the street. I did some research. I think I had maybe a BlackBerry at the time, because I'm dating myself. Seems like it was that long ago, but it was only a few years ago. And I found Fauquier Fish, and I went to this meeting, and it was a group of people that said, we really want to do something, but we don't have a lot of time to do it. And I said, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I drop my son off at preschool, and I go to Walmart or Target or Home Goods, and I just kind of spend my time not doing anything productive. So I said, I'd rather spend my time doing something for our community and productive. So I said, I'll get behind this, and I can start organizing it. So that was the birth of the Weekend Power Pack program through Fauquier Fish. And that program started with 65 kids and is now growing and serving 400 students every weekend and holiday breaks and throughout the summer. So that was kind of my call and my story to begin with. And it's since developed in this community.
Pretty phenomenal to go from nothing to 50 to 400 just in such a quick amount of time. So
it really is.
Yes. So let's sort of think about you now as a director of the Main Street program. And I think people have seen how much work has been done and how much the town has really invested in Warrenton at the moment. It's very impressive. Could you explain what you feel that you're serving right now? Who is the community that you're serving?
I am serving a broad spectrum of people in the community, and that's actually a tough question. It's who am I serving? As a Main Street program, we are part of a national program, the National Main Street Organization, and then we have state levels, so we're part of the Virginia Main Street Organization as well, and it's actually the town of Warrenton that's the member of the Main Street program, and Experience Old Town Warrenton is the nonprofit that runs that program. So we work very closely with the town of Warrenton. So a lot of it is I support the local business owners, but I also support the local property owners. And in doing so, we're supporting the general community. We want to preserve the history of Warrenton. So in my opinion, that goes beyond just the physical history of our buildings and our architecture, but it goes to the history of our quality of life. So what is Main Street? What is Old Town? And to me, creating that sense of place that I want to belong to, I want to be there, I want to have fond memories of being on Main Street. So how do we create that? And if we create that feeling of belonging and the sense of wanting to be there, then while I'm there, I'm going to shop and I'm going to support my local businesses. And when I'm supporting my local businesses, they are then able to support their local community by supporting fun runs or baseball teams or soccer teams. And they are then providing that economic. So money goes into those small businesses, and then that money goes directly back into the community. But one of the things that they do is then they pay their rent on time, and then their local landlord has more money that he's or she is investing back into the community. So it's this sense of working together. It takes the general community to come and support the small businesses, and then in turn the small businesses support the community. So who am I supporting? I guess I'm supporting just the community in a sense that we all work together to form the environment in which we live.
How do you feel things are going right now for the local community?
You know, Warrenton has done fairly well throughout the pandemic. Up until very recently, our numbers with COVID have been relatively low. We've been able to maintain a lot of things that other towns have had to shut down. So we found a way to continue the Warrenton Farmers Market. So that became a sense of gathering. Without gathering throughout the spring and the summer, there was music and friendship, and you could spontaneously interact with your neighbors. And not your next door neighbors, but you could go to the farmer's market and your kids could be with you, and they may run into some of the kids in their class or somebody on their baseball team or soccer team. And that just gives you a spark of joy. When you run into somebody that you enjoy being around, it just makes you feel better about yourself. So it boosted a lot of the spirits. We were also able to really take advantage of the town changing their ordinance so that we could have outdoor dining. So that then allowed people to gather outdoors in a safer environment and enjoy the company of friends and family. And that supported our businesses. The other thing is our community came around and they rallied in the Shop Local campaign. So they did support their local businesses. When we start to see some of the larger businesses close, it really hits home and it gets scary, because even though I don't need something right now, I know I'm going to need it later. So I want to support my local bookstore. I want to support my local clothing store, my pottery stores. I want to buy my jewelry local so that when I do need it later, I can go back and shop here in town.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's a hard message to get across to people, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, what do you think one of the obstacles to getting people up to Main Street and doing more local shopping is? Have you looked into that or got a sense of that at all?
I know personally, before I started working in Old Town, I didn't spend a lot of time there. And I think it's just the awareness of what's there. It's getting to know your neighbors and making that initial start to go and to change your habits. I've looked at it completely differently now that I'm the director, and now that I've looked at how towns and municipalities and taxes work. We all pay taxes whether we're aware of it or not. You pay your taxes on April 15th, but you pay taxes every day that don't seem as big. Every time I go to Chick-fil-A, I'm paying taxes. Every time I go to Walmart, I'm paying taxes. Those taxes then stay local to your community. So they go to support roads, flowers, your community, whether it's your Parks and Rec department. Those are the taxes that you pay. So when it's very convenient to go online and shop at Amazon, those taxes don't go to your local community. You're still paying taxes. They're going somewhere, but they're not going to you. So even if you're shopping local, you can shop at your local bookstore, but there are some things that you can't buy from a small business in Warrenton. So when you have to buy things like toilet paper and paper towels, if you're not able to do that locally and you need to do that at Walmart, shopping at the Walmart in Warrenton is better for your community than shopping at the Walmart in Haymarket, because those tax dollars stay local and your local community members are employed. And, with Fauquier Fish, we buy a lot of product from the Dollar Tree. And what we've learned is we can order online and then we go and pick it up from the local Dollar Tree. And those local employees then will often get a bonus because of the purchasing that we do from the food pantry. So not only are we helping our clients, but we're also helping the local employees as well. So shopping local, beyond just shopping small is very important, but shopping local is just as important.
That's a good perspective for people to hear. So sometimes people don't think that it makes a big difference, but certainly it does, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, yes.
So I love this question. It's my magic wand or genie in the bottle question, is that, and you can't ask for money.
Right.
So if you had one wish that would better the communities that you serve, and I'm going to use communities because you serve so many different organizations, is what would your one wish be, Charity?
I think it would be for everyone to take a deep breath, look around, look at their neighbors, look at their community, look at their neighborhood and say, what needs to be improved and what can I do to make a difference? Rather than complaining that there's a lot of trash along your street, go out, grab a bag, and pick it up. It's the grass is greener on the other side, but it's also that phenomenon that if you live in a neighborhood and one person mows their yard, within 24 hours, everybody on the street has mowed their yard. Because if I mow my yard, then my neighbor's yard looks a little bit worse because his grass is a little bit longer. So then he goes and mows his yard, and then the next person mows. So if I'm complaining about trash on the street and I go and do something about it and I pick up the trash, then the next street might look like it's full of trash. I'm like, well, how'd they get that done? How'd they get their street cleaned? Well, they went and cleaned it. So then they start to do that. So if I had one wish, it would be that we take responsibility for our own selves and our own community, and we make a difference, and we don't blame other people and demand that they change things. I think if I had one wish, it was that people would take action and make a positive change for themselves and their community.
I'll put that wish out there too. I like that. It's very good. So what do you, when you're looking around the community right now, what is one unmet need that you see that's really sticks out significantly for you?
You know, this community is amazing. And I've been asked that question, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live? And I said, well, I can live anywhere in the world, and I choose to live right here. It's a strong community, and a lot of our needs are being met. I think that the community need right now in our local society, history, our moment of history, is that we need to take a deep breath and acknowledge our neighbors and that we have different viewpoints. And maybe that's communication. Maybe it's an outlet to realize that your neighbor is not a bad guy after all. But as far as needs, you know, this community has a wealth of services through the nonprofit network, from mental health to food to housing. If I was really going to get into it, probably housing. We need some housing, diversity. But really, I think just that openness of opening our minds and welcoming our neighbors and looking at the positives rather than the negatives, and that opportunity there. And I know that if our interview had probably been at a different time, then I'd have a different answer.
Sure. Hey, but you know what? The interview is now because that was the answer that we wanted to hear, or yes, we needed to hear, right? So, right. Yeah, it's always that way. Yeah. So in wrapping up, I like to wrap up with a question about leadership, and what a leadership attribute do you hold as a very high ranking, and how do you put that into action for yourself?
Sure. I think it's the golden rule, and that's to treat others like you would want to be treated. So if you are in a situation where you need help and you don't have food to put on your family's table, and you have to make that first ask, and you need to ask somebody for help. I need help. If I were in that position, I would not want to be judged, because I understand, I can imagine that is a very hard ask to finally admit I need help. So I don't want to be judged. So at the food pantry, we try not to say no. So if we feel that if you've already made that decision personally that you need to ask for help, you should be able to receive help. And in a kind, respectful manner, just like if your sister was coming to you asking for your help, or your neighbor, or a friend of yours, treat them with dignity and respect. And I carry that over into the businesses that I support as well. When businesses come to me and they say, I need help, I know that was not an easy decision. They're not demanding my help. They're asking for my help. So I want to do everything that I can to help them, just like it would be my best friend asking for help. And that's the type of leadership that I try to express every day is that I treat others like I would want to be treated, with dignity and with respect. I want to listen, I want to hear, I want to understand, and then I want to be able to make a positive change. I might not be able to solve all the world problems, but if I can give something back that adds to it rather than takes away, that's my goal. I want to leave this earth a better place because I was here.
Absolutely perfect way to end the conversation, isn't it?